For more than a decade, American riders who love sport touring motorcycles have felt like they were left standing on the side of the road, watching their options disappear one by one. Honda, the company that once gave us icons like the Saint 1300 and the futuristic VFR 1200F, quietly stepped away from the sport touring segment. Riders who wanted a machine built to devour highways, glide through mountain passes, and still offer long-distance comfort had to look elsewhere. In their absence, the adventure bike craze took over. Big, tall, off-road capable machines like the Africa Twin, BMW GS, and Ducati Multistrada became the default answer for riders who wanted versatility. They sold in huge numbers, dominating dealerships and filling highways across the country. But here's the thing. Not every rider wants or needs a tall, dirt-ready machine with 19-inch or even 21-inch wheels. Not everyone wants to swing a leg over something that feels more like a tower than a motorcycle. That's where the story of the Honda NT1100 begins. Honda looked around and realized there was still a loyal group of American riders craving a bike that was designed first and foremost for the road. A machine that's sporty enough to carve up twisty back roads in California, but comfortable enough to blast down Interstate 40 from Nashville to Albuquerque. A bike that doesn't intimidate with its size, but still delivers the long-haul practicality. Touring riders demand that, so Honda went back into its toolbox and pulled out the beating heart of its most successful ADV, the Africa Twin. They took its proven 1084cc parallel twin engine, its 6-axis IMU technology, and even its semi-automatic DCT transmission. Then, instead of making another tall adventure bike, they built something different, a sport touring motorcycle that could fill the void left by the ST1300. They called it the NT1100. But here's the real question. Is the NT1100 truly the bike American riders have been waiting for? Or is it just an Africa Twin in disguise? Think about it. For years, Honda's strategy in the US leaned heavily toward adventure and off-road capable bikes. The Africa Twin became a darling of the adventure crowd, with its tall stance, rugged looks, and ability to handle dirt tracks and gravel roads. The Gold Wing covered the full luxury touring segment. But where was the middle ground? Where was the rider who wanted touring ability without the excess bulk? Who wanted practicality without the off-road pretense? That's the gap the NT1100 is supposed to fill. And yet, with its shared DNA, some riders worry. Will it feel like a true sport touring machine, or just a lowered, repackaged AD with road tires? Let's zoom out and see what Honda is really aiming at here. America is a country defined by its roads. Wide open interstates stretch for hundreds of miles. Desert highways slice across Arizona and Nevada. And winding mountain passes like the tail of the dragon in North Carolina test the riders' skills and stamina. A proper sport touring bike has to handle all these environments with equal grace. It has to be fast enough to thrill, comfortable enough to last, and practical enough to pack up for a week-long trip. That's why the NT1100 is so interesting. It's not pretending to be a do-it-all off-roader. It's unapologetically a road bike. And in a market where everyone is chasing the adventure trend, that makes it stand out immediately. From the moment you swing a leg over it, you notice the difference. The seat height is far more approachable than most adventure bikes, about 32 inches, instead of the 34 or 35 inches that keep many riders away from a DVs. The bike feels slimmer between your legs, thanks to that parallel twin design, and you can plant your feet firmly on the ground. That matters in America, where stop-and-go traffic in cities like Los Angeles or New York can be just as demanding as cruising on the highway. Then there's the wind protection. The wide fairing and adjustable windscreen give you a bubble of calm air at high speeds, shielding you from the bouffant that wears you down on long rides. And the ergonomics? Neutral, relaxed, but still with enough forward lean to remind you this bike wants to play when the road starts twisting. It all sounds promising. But again, the big question lingers. Is this just Africa Twin tech in a new package, or is it really Honda's sport touring comeback? To answer that, we need to break down the NT1100's strengths and weaknesses in detail. We need to look at how it stacks up against its rivals in the American market, from Yamaha's Tracer 9GT to Suzuki's GSX-S1000GT Plus and beyond. We need to understand whether Honda has delivered the machine that riders who missed the St. 1300 have been dreaming about, or if this is just clever marketing, dressed in familiar red paint. And that's exactly what we're about to do. When you look at the NT1100, one thing becomes clear right away. Honda built this machine with practicality in mind. It's not chasing the wild extremes of high-performance sport bikes, nor is it pretending to be a dirt-crushing adventure machine. Instead, it aims straight for the middle ground of comfortable, versatile, approachable motorcycle that American riders can actually live with day after day. But like any bike, it has its highs and its lows. And if you're considering parking one of these in your garage, it's important to weigh both sides carefully. Let's start with the strengths, because the NT1100 brings some real value to the table. The highest comfort for American roads' long-distance comfort is perhaps the NT1100's biggest win. American riders know what it's like to spend hours, sometimes entire days, in the saddle. Whether it's crossing Texas, running down the Pacific Coast Highway, or hammering across the Midwest, comfort is king. Honda nailed this part. The NT1100's ergonomics are neutral, the handlebar reach is casual, and the seat height, just a touch over 32 inches, is approachable for a wide range of riders. It's not the towering stance of an Africa Twin, and that's a good thing for riders who don't want to wrestle with extra height every time they stop at a red light. The windscreen is fully adjustable, and the wide fairings push air around your legs, creating a calm pocket that makes mile after mile easier to handle. Riders who put serious time on the bike often say the NT1100 feels like a machine designed for 500-mile days. And in a country where states themselves can take hours to cross, that matters. Competitive pricing in the US market. Pricing is everything. The NT1100 comes in with a suggested retail price of $11,899. That's aggressive. Honda is clearly going for value here. Just compare it. Yamaha Tracer 9GT $12,599, Suzuki GSX-S1000GT Plus $14,299, Moto Guzzi V100 Mandello $15,490, Kawasaki Versys 1000 CLT $19,499, even if you add Honda's color-matched panniers for $1,359. The NT1100 is still among the cheapest full-size sport touring options on the market. For American riders who want a versatile touring machine but don't want to spend gold-wing money, that's a big selling point. The Africa Twin heart at the center of the NT1100 beats a very familiar engine, the 1084cc parallel twin from the Africa Twin. And in this bike, it feels right at home. The motor has a 270-degree crankshaft, giving it a character similar to a V-twin. It sounds lively, it pulls hard from low revs, and it delivers exactly the kind of usable torque that American riders appreciate. Around town, it's responsive without being jerky. On the highway, it's got enough mid-range to make overtaking effortless. And when the road gets twisty, say, climbing up the Rockies or diving into the Blue Ridge Parkway, it has more than enough to keep you grinning. Sure, it tapers off a little at the top end, but let's be real, most riders aren't bouncing this thing off the limiter. The NT1100 isn't about chasing superbike numbers. It's about delivering power where you actually need it. And in that sense, Honda nailed the balance. The lows now. Let's talk about the other side of the coin. Because while the NT1100 shines in many areas, there are places where it leaves you wanting a bit more. The peculiar DCT Honda's dual-clutch transmission is one of the most polarizing features in motorcycling today. Some riders swear by it, others won't go near it. The NT1100 uses the latest version updated to work with data from its 6-axis IMU. And in theory, that should mean smoother, smarter shifts. And for the most part, it works. But here's the rub. The automatic modes don't always behave the way you'd expect. Drive mode, D. This mode feels like it's obsessed with fuel economy. It'll shift into 6th gear at ridiculously low speeds, sometimes as low as 35 miles per hour. Great for sipping gas. Not so great if you actually want to feel engaged. Sport mode, C. This is where things get better, especially in the most aggressive setting. But even here, the transmission sometimes holds gears longer than you'd like, or doesn't downshift quickly enough when you're braking hard into a corner. Now, the manual override with paddle shifters is fantastic. You can take control instantly, and the system responds quickly enough to be satisfying. But purists will still miss the tactile feel of a clutch lever. In America, where many riders enjoy that mechanical connection, the DCT remains something of a love it or hate it feature. Brakes that could use more bite to NT1100 comes with twin 310mm discs up front and 4-piston Nissan radial calipers. On paper, that sounds solid. In practice, the stopping power is adequate. And that's the problem. Adequate doesn't cut it when you're hauling down 530 pounds. A motorcycle, plus a rider, plus maybe a passenger and luggage from highway speeds. American highways are wide, fast, and often unpredictable. You need confidence that your brakes can deliver sharp stopping power when you need it most. The NT1100's brakes get the job done, but they don't inspire that extra confidence. A set of upgraded pads or even a radial master cylinder would likely make a noticeable difference. But out of the box, the braking performance is just okay. Panniers as an extra, this one stings. The NT1100 is a sport touring motorcycle. Touring is literally in the name. And yet, Honda chose not to include panniers as standard equipment. Instead, you'll need to pay $1,359 extra for color-match, key-to-light bags. For many American riders, that feels like nickel and diming. When competitors like the Tracer 9GT include luggage in the package, it's hard not to feel like Honda is holding back on something that should have been standard, especially in a country where weekend trips and cross-state rides are such a big part of the culture. Touring bags aren't an accessory, they're essential. The big question returns, so here we are again. We asked at the beginning, is the NT1100 really the bike that brings Honda back into the American sport touring scene? Or is it just an Africa twin in disguise? And after looking at the highs and lows, the answer starts to come into focus. The NT1100 is not a reincarnation of the Saint 1300 or the VFR 1200F. It's not a luxury sport tourer, dripping with premium features. It's also not a radical performance machine designed to chase lap times. What it is something simpler, a practical, affordable, approachable sport touring motorcycle that makes sense for a wide range of American riders. It might not be the dream machine for those who want full-on luxury or razor-sharp sportiness, but for riders who want a bike they can ride to work during the week and take across the country on the weekend, the NT1100 makes a lot of sense. That's exactly what we need to explore in the next step. Who is this bike really for in America? Because when you understand the kind of rider the NT1100 was built to serve, its role in the market becomes crystal clear. After looking at the strengths and weaknesses, one thing is clear. The NT1100 isn't trying to be everything for everyone. It's not pretending to be a gold wing. It's not competing head-to-head with superbikes. And it's not another taller DV chasing dirt roads. Instead, Honda aimed at something more focused, something that many riders in America have quietly been waiting for. A straightforward, comfortable, affordable sport tourer that puts the road first. So let's break down who this bike really serves. Ideal rider, the NT1100 is perfect for the rider who looks at today's market and feels a little left out. Maybe you don't want a 19-inch front wheel, crash bars, and 9 inches of suspension travel. You're not planning to ride the Dalton Highway or cross Baja. What you want is a bike that feels stable on the interstate, agile in the canyons, and comfortable enough to keep riding long after the fuel gauge says it's time to stop. This bike fits riders who are moving up from middleweight bikes and want something bigger without jumping to 1,500cc behemoths. Want a touring-capable motorcycle, but don't want the bulk of a Gold Wing or BMW RT. Ride mostly pavement, whether commuting, weekend road trips, or multi-state adventures. Value Honda's reputation for reliability and low maintenance costs. 4. This group, the NT1100, checks nearly every box. Where it falls short now, there are riders it won't satisfy. If you're chasing performance numbers, you'll look towards Suzuki's GSX-S1000GT GT or even a full sport bike with luggage options. If you're after luxury and refinement, BMW's R125 ORT or Kawasaki's Versys 1000 CE will feel more premium. And if you want maximum off-road versatility, the Africa Twin is still the better choice. But Honda wasn't building this bike for those extremes. They were aiming squarely at the middle. And sometimes, the middle is exactly what people want. The bigger picture, think about the American riding landscape. Our highways stretch forever. Cross-country rides are a dream many of us hold, from Route 66 to the Pacific Coast Highway. At the same time, gaily commuting in sprawling cities demands a bike that isn't intimidating or overly complex. The NT1100 threads that needle-dot its approachable ergonomics make it easy to ride every day. Its price makes it accessible compared to premium European offerings. And its long-haul comfort makes it a natural for American road trips. That's a powerful combination, even if it doesn't grab headlines with outrageous horsepower or luxury. Gadgets. The answer to the question back in the beginning, we asked, is the NT1100 really the return of Honda to sport touring in America? Or is it just an Africa Twin in disguise? Here's the answer. The NT1100 isn't a reborn ST1300. It isn't a direct replacement for the VFR1200F. Instead, it's Honda recognizing that the American rider of today wants something practical, efficient, and versatile. By taking the Africa Twin's proven platform and reshaping it for the road, they created a bike that fills a gap the market had nearly forgotten about. It may not look like the sport tourers of the past, but in many ways, it delivers the same. Spirit, a motorcycle built to take you wherever the highway leads, with comfort, reliability, and just enough sportiness to keep things exciting. Closing thoughts so. Who should buy the NT1100 in America? Riders who want one bike that can do it all commute during the week. Hit the twisties on Saturday and cover 500 miles on Sunday without breaking a sweat. Riders who don't want to spend $20,000 on a touring machine, but still want Honda quality. Riders who believe motorcycles should be ridden, not just admired in the garage. And for those riders, the NT1100 might just be the smartest purchase they can make right now. Because in a market dominated by adventure, bikes, and oversized tours, Honda dared to bring back something refreshingly simple. A road-focused sport tourer that makes sense for the way Americans actually ride. So yes, the NT1100 is more than just an Africa Twin with street clothes. It's Honda's reminder that sometimes the best bike isn't the flashes or the most extreme. Sometimes the best bike is the one that just works day in and day out, mile after mile across this wide, open country we call home.